Good morning and welcome to a brand new edition of Money Truth Moments with our very own money whisperer, Judy Barger. I had to do that pause because I wanted to build some kind of momentum, and I realized, wait, I have no music to build the momentum, right? So, what a great way to start. How are you? Exactly. Well, Happy New Year, Judy. How are you?
Oh, I am ready for a new year. This is going to be the best one yet. I'm so excited. And I cannot believe just the other day we were talking about it's a new year again.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just going so fast. But 2024 is here. It's going to be amazing.
Folks, and if you're just joining us for the first time, welcome. Make sure that you are bookmarking the show and also follow judycopenbarger.today. We have a lot of great content for this upcoming year. And I want to get us started because this is very exciting as we begin a new year, right? Everybody has new year resolutions. Everybody said, hey, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. But what we tend to forget is always our finances, right? It's a brand new year. We want to put everything that's in the past. And we want to really talk about today, and I want to put this up here for us to be able to see this. I want to talk about the smart financial moves to kick off 2024 strong. And I know you got a lot of great wisdom to share with us today. So what do you say we get started?
Let's do it. I'm ready.
All right. So let's talk about the infamous B word, right?
The infamous B word. Yeah.
So I'm going to let you tell folks what that B word is. And I'd like for us to kind of start talking about this since it is a brand new year. And we got 364 days to go to make this happen, right?
Yeah. The B word. It's budget. It sounds like the D word, diet, which a lot of people are thinking about right now after the holidays. But it's kind of restrictive. It's kind of like what you can't have. When you think about a diet or a budget, it's like, what can't I do? What can't I spend money on? Really, it's a spending plan, right? And if you're looking at nutrition, it's an eating plan. And so to me, it just sounds a whole lot more positive, like what I get to do, what I plan to do, what I'm going to be doing, a lot less restrictive. I think it's just a psychological thing. Maybe I have an issue around that. But yeah, so what I really would want to do is when we're looking at focusing on starting 2024 strong is getting a really good benchmark of where you are, like looking at the reality. What exactly do I have to work with? And what will I be doing to optimize how I work with that? Right. So that's just putting together your expense plan, your spending plan. And as money comes in, if you've already got a plan for it, an allocation for the income, it makes a big difference for people. A lot of times we allocate what goes out. We know we have a food bill and a gas bill and a housing bill and all these insurance premiums, all these things that we have to pay every month. But we don't always think about how to allocate the money as it comes in. And that's what a spending plan can do for you. So I think as you're kicking off 2024 strong, one of the best things that you can do is have a really good tracking and a plan for the income that comes in. And we'll call that a spending plan.
Awesome. So folks, if you're just joining us, this is going to be a jam-packed show. So make sure you are taking some notes because we're going to cover through a lot of content in a short amount of time. So we're talking about the spending plan. So start us off with like step one in this, with things that we should be thinking about in the spending plan.
Well, first of all, where's the money coming from? Is it coming from salary? Is it coming from commissions? Is it coming from a side hustle? You're selling something on the side, or you have a weekend job, or maybe there's dual incomes, 2 or 3 incomes coming into the household. Is it coming in from some investments that you already have or rental income? Is there farm income? Maybe you have a family farm and everybody gets a little piece of that. Wherever it's coming from, you want to have a really good handle on when it comes in and how it comes in. Because sometimes it's every 2 weeks. Sometimes it's twice a month or once a month. Sometimes it's quarterly, and sometimes it's just like at the end of the year, right? Or on the fiscal year. So you want to know the revenue source. That's like the first step. The second thing is to fill in the expenses. Okay, now that we have this money come in and we know when it's going to come, we can anticipate it, we can expect it. And again, this is a little more difficult and tricky and artful for people that work on commissions or bonuses. And I like to think of people like real estate professionals. They don't get like a paycheck generally. They get like a commission, a big wad of cash when the house finally closes escrow that they've sold for someone. Um, it could be a little tricky around that. So, and some of my clients really struggle with, how do I kind of level out the playing field? How do I anticipate what's going to happen? And so we can look at what's happened in the past. We can look at what's trending in whatever genre it is. Maybe you sell solar, or maybe you sell whatever it is. You sell pharmaceuticals, and every quarter you get like a bonus or something. So whatever it is, you want to have a really good idea of what your expenses are. You start with the fixed expenses, and then you have the flexible expenses that you can fill in. And the fixed ones are just that. They don't change. If you have a mortgage, it's the same every month. If you have an insurance premium, it's the same every month, usually. It might go up once a year or something. Um, your housing is going to be the same. Most of your utilities won't flex much. If they do, you're aware of it, because maybe your electric goes up in the summer when your AC is going a little bit more. Maybe your gas goes up in the winter when your heater's on a little bit more. But you have a good idea. If you've been in your place for a little while, you know what those flexible expenses will be. But the fixed expenses are always the same. The flexible ones are things like entertainment, things like travel, things like even groceries. You can eat on a shoestring, or you can really easily spend money these days at the grocery store. And so those are what we would call flexible expenses, right? They're not the same all the time. And that's where you have room to manage your spending plan. That's where you can fill the gaps if you need to.
So let's talk about also that sometimes we tend to create these goals, right? Especially in budgets. And for example, this year I'm going to save $100,000. Some outrageous amount of money, right? Which would be great, right?
Yeah,
But
that's a wonderful goal.
but I think it's also something that a lot of folks also don't create realistic goals, and you fail before you even start, right? So kind of like we talked about the D word, the diet, right? We say, hey, I'm going to lose 50 pounds in the next 60 months, right? But when it gets down to it, it's like day one, yeah, you're pumped up. Day two, it's like, okay, I'll get
Yeah,
there. Day
I'll have a
three,
cookie.
you kind of say, yeah, exactly. You start kind of going downhill, and I think it's fair to say it's the same way when we're talking about our finances, right? We have
Yeah.
all these great plans and all of that, but if we don't really put things down in paper, we don't have an accountability person that can help us through that. And we talked about this before.
Mhm.
It's almost like, then why do it, right? So we want to make sure. I think that what you guys are listening to and Judy is sharing with you guys is that this is a set plan. It's an easy to follow plan, and we're going to get to more additional steps on this. But again, don't, at least from what I've heard you say as well too, is like this. Let's not create unrealistic goals, and
Mhm.
just take those baby steps, right? And I think one of those baby steps could be even starting with savings or investments, right? So let's talk about that.
Exactly. And you just said the key about 30 seconds ago. If you rewind it, you said, quote, "Why do it?"
Mhm.
Close quote, right? Why do you start with why? I want to save $100,000 this year. I want to save $20,000 this year. I want to save $5,000 this year. I want to do something. You start small, and you got to be really clear in why. Why am I doing it? What's the savings for? Is it to have a slush fund, to have an emergency fund, to have cash reserves in case something happens and I don't want to have to whip out a credit card? Is that what it's for? Or is it for some goal that I have? Like, I know I got a lot of miles on my car. I'm probably going to need to replace it soon. I'm going to need to have money gathered together for a down payment. So I don't have to do that with a credit card and pay 20% interest or more. So it's having that savings goal clarified, knowing what it's for, your big why. When that happens, your decisions are easy. I think Roy Disney said that. When your why is clear, your decisions are easy. And it's true. It's like Yes, I'm going to do that. No, I'm not going to do that because I have a goal to replace my vehicle, to save $20,000 this year, whatever it is. I want to get into that house. I want to get the keys to our first place, right? Or our bigger place because now we've had triplets. So whatever it is, you want to make sure that you're very clear in the intent of the savings goal, and you'll get there.
And folks, if you're just joining us, welcome. Happy New Year. Make sure if you're not following Judy, do so at judykopenbarger.today. Today, we are discussing our smart financial moves to kick off your 2024 strong. So if you're just joining us, please watch the beginning of the show as well too. So I want to keep moving on because this is all very interesting, very doable stuff, and it's just something that now you feel like there's hope, right? A lot of us kind of go through this, especially after the holidays. You end up spending so much money on buying gifts, doing this, doing that. So let's talk a little bit about us folks who spend money and how do we do like a debt repayment, right? Now we got into all this debt, maxed out in some cases, maxed out credit cards and things like that. How does this help in a budget?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we always have that to manage, but this time of year, maybe you've been traveling, you did that special trip to grandma's house, or you flew the kids out to see you, whatever it is. Maybe you did a couple of extra electronic gifts or electric bikes or, those big ticket items that happen this time of year. You probably had a little bigger grocery bill than normal, and you probably did, some of those great sales right after Christmas. So a lot of times this is the time of year where we're thinking about, okay, now we got to belt tighten a little bit, pay off the debt. And for some people, it's an ongoing management of debt. You're digging out of something. Maybe you had a job change, or you were in school, you went back to school, or you sent your kids to school. Now we have some debt to manage. That's part of your spending plan. So every month, and this is where some people can really get in trouble with their spending plan. You want that ratio to be down under 20%, and 20% is even high. But sometimes there's reasons that you've accrued the debt. You want it to be under 20% of all the money that you have every month to spend. And that's after taxes. And that's after special gifting. If you're a tither, you'll know what that means. But you have this wad of money that you get to use. If it's under 20% is your debt, that's manageable. If it's over that, you need to do a serious debt reduction strategy, like right away, because it's going to get bigger. The snowball is going to get bigger as it goes. And you're going to end up just capsizing. So the way to do that, and a lot of people are unaware, is to negotiate. If you have consumer credit cards, those are the ones with the high interest. You can call the credit card companies and say, look, here's the thing. I've got this much debt. I have this much income. It's not going to change much, if at all. And this is what I can do. Will you reduce my interest rate? Will you reduce my balance? Can I have more time to try to get ahead of this snowball that's coming down the mountain after me? And almost all of the time, they will say, yeah, we'll work with you. You just have to have a little courage to make the call. It might be humbling. There might be some shame involved, and you can let go of that because you're being intentional now. There's no shame in that, in cleaning up a mess, right? And mopping up. And you can negotiate those credit cards. If it's overwhelming to you, there are professionals that will do that. I prefer to avoid the debt consolidation loans because now you have all these little loans that are hard to pay, and there's a transformation into one big impossible to pay bill. So I like to, avoid those. A lot of times the negotiation they're doing for you, you can do, and you can keep the difference instead of giving it to the company. So you have options out there. But that's one important part of your spending plan. Getting that debt down. Obviously, zero would be great. Although a lot of people like to hang on to a mortgage because
Right.
that's not always bad debt. That's, growth debt. So get rid of all the other stuff. Get a strategy that works. If you get it down below that 20%, 10 would be great or less. Then you're going to be in good shape, and your spending plan ought to be sustainable.
Awesome. So let's also talk about once we have this plan in place, right? And this happens to a lot of us. There's little hiccups that come up. Let's say I blew out a tire. Now I need, brand new four tires. My battery went dead. Those unexpected, my furnace went out. It's cold, whatever it is. So these are unexpected things that we talked about before. So talk to us a little bit about also having a contingency plan and how important that is.
You mean life happens? Is that what you mean?
Imagine that, right?
I've never had a financial surprise ever. Yeah, life does happen. So you always want to have an appropriate amount of cash reserves, and that's different for everyone. There's kind of the science to picking a number, a percentage, or a dollar amount, but really it's your comfort level. What allows you to sleep well at night, knowing that if something happened, you have enough money, but you don't want to overdo it. Sometimes people think, well, if I have 100,000, 150,000, 200,000 in the bank, that's more than they might ever need for something bad that happened. And that's money maybe that could be working, better. But you want to have, depends on the professional. The CFP training has 3 months, 6 months, all these things. Really, it's your number. But if you're somewhere in there between 3 months and 6 months of your basic expenses, remember we talked about the fixed expenses and the flexible. The fixed are the ones that, that's just survival mode. You take that number, multiply it by 3 if you're both working, maybe 5 or 6 if only, one income is coming in, or if you're single. That'll be a really good cash reserves for you. And that should allow you to weather any storm that happens, the tires, the battery, the baseball goes through the windshield. All of a sudden, when it rains, now I need to get some dental work, and, I broke my leg, and, it seems to all happen all at once, full moon, whatever it is. Having a cash reserve at that amount should really help. So if your income is 4,000, you might want to have 12,000 or so. 12 to 15 maybe in the bank at all times. And when it depletes, you fill it up again, right? That's the plan. And if you have an income of $10,000, you might need to have 30 or 40,000 in cash reserves to really have that, an appropriate amount for you. But that calculation ought to give you a really good benchmark for a place to start.
So there's a lot of great content that you're sharing with us. I know that I keep seeing people popping in, and so welcome to the show, folks. If you're not following Judy, please do so at judycopenbarger.today. If you're just joining us for the first time, or you're joining us a little late, make sure that you watch the beginning of the show, because today it's a great way to start off our year by talking about smart financial moves to kick off 2024. And we want to make sure that you are successful for this year. So one last thing that I'm going to ask you, because I know we're getting close to the end of the show, is let's talk very briefly about long-term financial goals. And what does that look like for the next 12 months?
Well, you always want to put into your spending plan money that pays you. There's money that goes out for this and goes out for that, and you're paying everybody else in the world for you to do your life. But you should be on the list. And so one of those line items should be savings for you, like real savings, not like I'm going to rob it when things get tight savings. Real D&T, do not touch savings. And that real savings can be divided into your goals. There's, some money for short-term goals and some money for long-term goals. And I always like to kind of split the difference. So part of it is for my lifestyle, a trip I want to take, or something extra I want to do for my kids or with my kids. And then the rest of that goes toward long-term. I'm always stashing for later, because I plan on living a long time after my earning years. I just kind of hope that would be possible. And if I don't need it, then my kids will enjoy it, or my grandkids will enjoy it one day. So that's kind of the plan. But you want to have long-term financial goals, know what they are. And part of your spending plan ought to have at least a little allocation, even if it's only a couple of percent, put something in there. I get a lot of questions about retirement. That's long-term for a lot of people. When the income is replaced by my money earning it rather than me going to get it. And if you can work your way, depending on if you're 20, 40, 60, whatever, if you can work your way up to about 10% that you save for long-term goals, that is ideal. You might have to start small, 2%, 3%, 5%, maybe every year challenge yourself to add a percent to that. But if you're at 10%, those are the people, when they do that are on the Cruise of the Month Club. We see them on the golf course. We see them traveling everywhere. If they save that 10% magic number, most of their working years, they have plenty of money to sustain a good lifestyle indefinitely.
And it wouldn't be our show if it wasn't right at the end of the show, which also leads us to it is our very first 2024 Money Truth Challenge. So how are you going to kick us off this year?
This is easy. If you need to revise your spending plan, if you have a budget, tweak it, right? Update it, get it ready for this year. Try to squeeze a little more juice out of it for those future goals. That's your challenge. If you don't have a spending plan, it's time to make one. And it's simple, maybe not easy if it's new, right? But it's very simple. Take all of the allocations of income that you have, write down what that's going to be. So you're anticipating the money that's going to come in. Some people don't think about it. Write down the money that's going to come in, where it comes from, how often, when it comes in, and then what your fixed expenses are, what your flexible expenses are. Make sure that you put yourself on that list. So you have your savings there. If you have debt reduction strategies that you need to put in place, that should be probably a priority for you so we can get some leverage for these other things. So put together your spending plan or update it for 2024. That's your challenge.
All right, folks. So one of the other additional challenge I'm going to throw at you guys also is make sure that you are doing these challenges. Share with us if you're struggling. Share with us some positives, some negatives of your process as well too. And also, if you have any additional questions that you may want Judy to address for future shows, please make sure that you reach out, to the show as well. Reach out to Judy. Reach out to myself as well, and we can get those questions answered for you as well. Remember, you're not alone in 2024. You have Judy sharing some great wisdom. And again, just make sure that we kick off this year the right way. And once more, if you're not following Judy, please follow her at judykopenbarger.today. Shows Tuesdays at 8 a.m., replays at Thursday at 8 p.m. So last parting words, Judy.
Make it a great week, a great month, and a great beginning of 2024. You've got this.
All right. Until next week, we'll see you later.